Hi, my name is Alex Dolphin and welcome back to another episode of Ex Ante. Today we're going to discuss the case of Pavel Enterprises versus A.S. Johnson Company. This case was heard in the Maryland Court of Appeals in the year of 1996. Let's go ahead and jump into the facts of the case. So Pavel was a general contractor, A.S. Johnson was a subcontractor. Pavel, as a general contractor, put a large bid in to renovate the National Institute of Health building. The full bid was about $1.5 million. A large portion of this renovation was an overhaul of the HVAC system. The subcontractor that specialized in HVAC was A.S. Johnson. A.S. Johnson gave Pavel a preliminary bid of just under $900,000 to do the full job. Pavel then based their overall bid to the NIH renovation board with that in mind for about $1.5 million. So the vast majority of the bid was for this HVAC overhaul. Some time went by. Pavel wasn't the lowest bidder, so they didn't think they were going to get the bid. Neither did A.S. Johnson. And then on September 1st, the lowest bidder was unresponsive. So they kind of fell through. Pavel gets this idea like, hey, we might actually be the one who gets this bid. So they begin calling their subcontractors again, A.S. Johnson being one of them, and just say, hey, just want to make sure you're all good, ready to go for this on September 1st. A.S. Johnson says, well, hey, I just want to let you know, actually there was an issue in our bid. It was too low. We can still do it, but it's going to cost you more money. Pavel says, well, that's not cool. You told me it was going to cost you $900,000. We had a contract that was going to be the price. A.S. Johnson says, no, it was just a preliminary bid. So anyways, that's September 1st. Towards the end of September, a few weeks later, the NIH officially awards the bid to Pavel. Pavel tries to, get A.S. Johnson to perform for the price that they originally quoted. A.S. Johnson says, no, we're not going to do it. So Pavel ultimately has to find a new HVAC subcontractor. That contractor does it for $930,000. So they're suing, in this case, the original bidder, which is A.S. Johnson, for the $30,000 difference, the $900,000 that they originally bidded versus the $930,000 that they ended up having to pay to the HVAC company that was going to do it. They're saying that one, there was a contract that was formed, and because there was a contract that was formed between the general contractor, Pavel, and the subcontractor, A.S. Johnson, when they didn't perform that contract, they breached. And then two, they're saying that if there wasn't a contract under promissory estoppel, Pavel relied upon the promise of A.S. Johnson. And under that case, the only way to avoid injustice would be to enforce this contract and have them pay out the difference between what they bid us and what we ended up having to pay the final subcontractor. So that's the two issues that the court's grappling with. One, was there a valid contract when the subcontractor submitted their original bid? And then two, underneath promissory estoppel or reliance-detriment theory, are we allowed to let Pavel recover from A.S. Johnson? So on the first issue, the court says, no, there was not a valid contract. That's because they say that the valid contract would have occurred if they wouldn't have withdrawn prior to NIH officially accepting the bid. Because A.S. Johnson told Pavel on the 1st of September, a few weeks before NIH actually officially accepted Pavel's bid, that they were withdrawing, the court says that they withdrew within a reasonable time frame, and they didn't allow, Pavel couldn't accept anymore because A.S. Johnson had withdrawn their offer before that. So on the first issue of valid contract, the court says, no, sorry, Pavel, there was no valid contract between you and A.S. Johnson regarding this issue. On the second, promissory estoppel or reliance-detriment theory, the court also says, hey, you know what, this isn't enough for you to enforce the contract and get $32,000 back in damages. The court says that because they don't believe that the only way injustice can be avoided is through enforcing this contract. That is really kind of why promissory estoppel is a Hail Mary of sorts in contract law and in trying to recover from a party, is because if you're going to recover under promissory estoppel, it has to be the only way injustice can be avoided is from the enforcement of the contract. And of course, that's such a heavy term that the court decides they're not going to enforce that here either. So ultimately, the court comes down on the side of A.S. Johnson, and they reify the trial court's ruling that says that Pavel can't recover that $32,000 from them. So that's the case. Ultimately, it's a little odd because it seems and this is what we'll just hop into the discussion of the case. It seems a little bit like there's a double standard, right? The general contractor is bound to NIH by their bid, but the subcontractors aren't bound to the general contractor by their bid. it doesn't seem wholly fair that the subcontractors wouldn't be bound just like the general contractors are bound to their ultimate client. The court does grapple with that. They talk about it. They talk about how, general contractors, sometimes they'll, engage in what they call bid chopping. So they'll go around to different subcontractors and try and get the price down. Court doesn't like that. And for that reason, they say that, we're not going to consider the subcontractor's original bid to the general contractor an actual complete contract up until when that is, beginning to be performed. I think another interesting thing to think about in this case is that either way the court rules, they're going to incentivize bids that are higher than what they actually probably should be. And I think this is something that is bad for society, but I'm not sure the court has a way to grapple with it here. So if the court rules in favor of Pavel and they say that, hey, that was actually an offer, they accepted it when they originally compiled their offer to send out to NIH, they accepted the A.S. Johnson offer when they originally, amalgamated their offer and sent it to NIH. The court rules that way. They're going to incentivize subcontractors in the future to bid at a much higher value. They're going to incentivize people like A.S. Johnson, instead of trying to bid a low price to get the job, they're going to incentivize all subcontractors to bid, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 above what their actual price is, just so they can build that cushion in for themselves. But if they rule in favor of A.S. Johnson, like they did in this case, they're also going to incentivize Pavel to increase their bid to NIH. That's because if Pavel knows that they can't rely upon the promises of the subcontractors, upon the bids of the subcontractors, ultimately they're going to have to make their overall bid much larger to the final client. And that's because they need to build in some cushion there. So either way the court rules, they're incentivizing larger than life bids to give the contractors a way to deal with times when people fall through on their lower bids. And I don't think that's good for society. We don't want people just putting crazier high bids out there just to make sure they're okay, and then when something goes right, now they're going to take extra hundreds of thousands of dollars rather than bidding at an equitable value in the beginning, what would give them a reasonable profit. So something to think about there with the implications of the ruling. And either way they did that, they were going to incentivize larger bids for either the general contractor to the final client or the subcontractor to the general contractor. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.